Hi guys, welcome back to the check-in for another video, obviously. I've made quite a few rather serious videos, well, not serious, but covering some pretty deep topics, let's put it that way, over the last couple of days and weeks. And this will be no exception. Now, obviously, in this video, I've got to be very careful how I put this across, and yeah, just kind of be cautious. But I am going to be somewhat truthful. And you might be thinking, oh, what is it? What is this one about? Well, this one covers Thailand, and not so much Thailand as a country or as a culture or anything like that. Although it is connected to its fabric and to some extent anyway. So this is going to be Thailand and culture, another one of those videos. So yeah, this is actually my partner's room, which is why we've got things like this in it. Anyway, which is actually another thing of part of Thai culture, actually, which I'll come on to if I can remember. Because I've said this in a few videos, which I said, we'll talk about this, we'll come on to this. And after reviewing it, didn't actually cover those things, so apologies for that. I sort of just go with a thought and go from there sometimes, and I kind of forget some things I was supposed to mention. But anyway, never mind. But yeah, so this is going to be about Thailand. Specifically about immigration and the whole visa situation that's going on here. About 20 years ago, 15 to 20 years ago, there was a huge rise in, really kind of, I said really I said about 20 years ago was the point in which immigration started to get pretty serious, I guess. Not in a bad way. I mean, like, it started to become a thing probably 20 to 30 years ago. And that's partly because of that was partly because of the exchange rate between the pound, well, the dollar, the pound, and the baht. Obviously, other currencies that have a good relationship with it. So certainly for foreigners, you could certainly get more for your money. I'd say even 10 years ago, probably every year up until now. More or less, of course, it always fluctuates and stuff, but I think it's been more or less. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the figures and everything, but it's been fairly. It used to be fairly. It used to be of a fairly decent rate, and you used to get a lot more for your money. Of course, Thai baht used to go further as well, obviously with inflation and, of course, just the economy and banks and the financial markets, all that sort of stuff. Investment and, relationship between other countries, especially within ASEAN. Obviously, the relationship between countries in the West has changed and has fluctuated over the years. But the baht used to get a lot more baht. I think 15 years ago, I think it was about maybe about 50 to 60 baht, I think, to the pound. It's rapidly gone down in the last, well, it's certainly in the last 10 years, and even since I came here in 2015, the baht has gone down These things are complicated, and I'm no expert. So I'm not going to sit here and bullshit and pretend I know all the ins and outs, because I don't. But of course, there's a lot of different factors about investment, trade, the way that the way that markets fluctuate. Economists and people that study shares, bonds, all that sort of stuff will probably obviously understand those kind of things a lot more. And of course, I think you have to take into consideration mainly the situation in ASEAN, and certainly countries that are more dependent, that Thailand has had more dependence on over the last couple of years, and certainly has much more of now, like China, for example, even Malaysia, Japan, to some extent, even Myanmar, Cambodia. But I'd say probably the big two are China, Japan. Yeah, China and Japan. So, as a result of all this, it's obviously affected tourism. And apparently, I think Phuket has seen, I believe it's something like 30% drop or something like that in like tourists or something this year in 2019. So, of course, Phuket had a big problem. I think it was last year or the year before with it was a tragic boat incident that I think if it's 20 to 40 people or something, I can't really remember, but I think 20 to 30 or 40, maybe 40 people, I think, were, I don't know if they died or was it, I know that there was quite a few casualties, unfortunately. And there was a lot of people injured. I think there was 30 odd or more people died, I think. So obviously that's had an effect on the reputation of those companies and people using them. So it depends on what specifically has seen a drop. You can't Phuket as a whole. I mean, it could just be that people are using less of the boats. People, I mean, of course, that's one of the reasons that people go to Phuket is to go to to go out on, scuba diving and so forth, snorkeling and all that kind of thing. So just there, I mean, apparently Chiang Mai has also seen some pretty serious reductions in amount of foreigners that are going there, that have been there this year, and I think even in Bangkok as well. Of course, this might not be. It's not. I'm sure it's not just as simple as let's blame it all on immigration and immigration rules and visas. I'm not saying that that's the only source of the problem here. It's multiple, and probably a lot more things that I don't know, haven't considered, or haven't got a clue about. So if you know something in regards to that, maybe you can drop a comment below. So one of the major issues in Thailand is that as a foreigner, you basically have no leg to stand on over here in any way, and you don't have a voice, you don't have any control or any influence in any capacity over how things are run. Well, to some extent you kind of do, I suppose, if you bribe, but that's kind of coming to an end. The problem is there's a lot of corruption over here, and as corruption breeds corruption, there's going to be more of it. And so because of the loopholes and the corruption that have been created within the government and within immigration and so forth, that's obviously led to corruption from agencies and companies that are hiring people without the right qualifications and so forth, and also allowing, whether deliberate or not, I don't know, maybe people to exploit the system, as it were. And this is why, for a long time, and I've met people that have done it, that had stayed in Thailand on 30-day stamps for God knows how many months or even years. In fact, I met one guy. I think it was in Laos, I want to say Savannah Ket, I believe it was Savannah Ket. Who apparently, according to him, it could have been bullshitting me. Had been in Thailand for 6 years, 7 years at that point. Just coming in and out. And so I understand that at some point the tourism board, immigration officials, and the people that are at the top of the immigration department are, trying to sort issues out and get rid of all these loopholes and issues that are part of the reason behind the ever-growing flowering of corruption between those within immigration and the foreigners that are taking advantage of it. So I do apologise. This fucking bell keeps ringing. I don't know if I need to go down or not, because these fucking idiots, I don't know if they keep locking the door or something. I don't know, but basically, there's some people working here on the house. They're building an extension to they're building a kitchen apparently. So and they're we won't go there anyway. But it's just kind of took me off track. I'll probably get a call in a minute telling me to go down, go and open the door for them. Should have a key, really. Anyway. Yeah, this is Thailand. There's a lot of issues here. A lot of issues with logic. I don't have a problem with people wanting to stay in Thailand, even if they're not tourists, even if if they want to be here for say. I think the best solution to dealing with the tourism or so-called tourist is to just get rid of the 3-month fucking visa process. Just get rid of that. But they won't, because there's so much money in it. There's so much. It's win-win. It's win-win for Thailand, and it's win-win for neighbouring countries. And that's how they keep the business going. If it probably wouldn't be. I don't know. I can't imagine be making as much money. The relationship wouldn't be so strong. And of course, this immigration is not just about immigration profit and making money. It's about other things that are affected by immigration and tourism. People that are going across to the borders of Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia, or wherever, even Malaysia. They're spending money in those countries. So by having a 3-month visa, if people want to stay longer in Thailand, it's a case of either flying all the way back home and getting another visa, which is pretty much bonkers, or flying or going across the border to a nearby country, and as a result, spending money in their economy, and so helping to boost the reputation and just overall just boost the economy. So immigration has influences on all sorts of different things: business, trade, and just image, really. Image, and it's a win-win for the tourist visa situation is helping. It's great for those that profit from only allowing if you want to stay in Thailand for over a year or something, you should be able to do that. But not just, what I'm saying is there is other options. Of course, there's other visas available, education visas, non-immigrant, and so forth. But that's all good and well if you've got the qualifications and the things that allow you to get, that grant you permission to be on those visas. If you don't have the qualifications or the right documents and paper, and even if you do, you don't always get your visa anyway. There's a lot of things to a lot of bullshit to put up with, even with those visas. So I think for tourists, you could say, well, yeah, a tourist is just someone that comes for 2 weeks or 3 months, whatever. Okay, fine, but you know, what an actual long-term tourist, you know, somewhat such. You could say, well, after so long, you're not a tourist, are you? You might as well be a resident. No, because you don't have a bank, you can't, and that's the thing. I think if a 1 year visa was brought in, I think you'd see a lot of people, you'd see a lot of the corruption from the side of the tourists who are supposed to be tourists, because they'd have, maybe, let's say for example, you can just stay for a year, maybe you can extend it for maybe 6 months or something, maybe. I don't know, something like that. You know, of course, you'd have to be able to prove that you've got enough money to support yourself, and as long as you're registered where you are, we live in, all that kind of stuff, which you have to do anyway on a 3-month visa, then I don't see what the problem is. But of course, you know, that the immigration don't want that, because there's more money in it for them. I assume there's probably it's more profitable to have 3-month, you know, visa situation whereby, you know, after 2-3 visas, you can be denied at the border or at the airport and have to pay 20,000 baht to get in. You know, the thing is, it's, you know, I'm sure there's some so-called anti-corruption, certainly in Cambodia, anti-corruption departments within immigration, stuff like that. Or there's certainly projects and stuff that are set up from immigration to deal with all these problems. But the truth is that deep down they don't really want to deal with it, because it would reveal that most of the corruption's coming from the side of Thai immigration and the officials that are allowing these things to continue, or are trying to make it look like they're doing something, whereas actually it's just more corruption. You know, well, okay, we're being strict. Well, how are you being strict? By denying people at the airports who have been, right? Okay, well, right, and that's doing what? Well, that's persuading people not to take, you know, to take advantage of the system. Well, yeah, but it can also have the opposite effect, where people think, well, fuck it then, I won't bother coming back. But then again, that's down to interpretation, and that's one of the things I dislike about Thailand is there's a thing that, you know, there is Thai immigration law, but it's not really followed. It's a lot of it's down to the discretion of the officer. Well, that's not fair. That's not right. And it could say, well, if you don't like it, then go home. Well, yeah, but that's not solving any problems, then, is it? And then that's why you'll start to see more and more a reduction in tourism here. So it doesn't solve anything. So, well, pay the fine then at the airport. Don't make any problems. But what does that solve? What does that? It doesn't. It solves people like you who are taking the piss. No, it doesn't. It doesn't do anything, because all you have to do is go home, change your passport, which is, of course, that system's changing soon. But all you would really have to do is go home for a while, change your passport, get a new visa, and away stay in your country for a couple of months, and then you're back in Thailand again. And before you know it, you could just keep continuing that process. So really, in the end, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't solve the issue. What you need to do is change the fucking system. Get rid of this 3-month tourist visa situation. That's not. I mean, it's working for those that benefit financially from it. But, you know, for people that want to be here just to travel, maybe just to travel around the country for a year or whatever, or even with some privileges, there should be that option. You know, I don't think you should have to go through the whole, you need a degree, you need this, you need that, to just be able to work in some capacity here. Because a lot of the people that do have degrees, they're not cut out. Even the people that have all the right qualifications to be a teacher or to work in this department or this type of career, whatever. A lot of them aren't cut out for it. They're just doing it so they can stay in Thailand. So why don't you just cut out all the bullshit, all the middleman crap, and just make it easier for people to stay here by introducing like just some kind of a, tourist working, like what Australia has, some kind of like a working holiday tourist type of visa that you don't need, as long as it's the strict criteria, and you follow things to the law, you follow the law, then there shouldn't be any problems. The problem is a lot of it's down to discretion, and it's that's not a system it's a flawed system. One officer one day could be an asshole to you. That same officer the next day could be might not say anything to you at the airport, at the border. So that's not going to work forever, because people are just going to get, well, there's no justice. It's not a fair system. It's treating everybody with suspicion. You can say, well, if you've got nothing to hide, then you shouldn't be. It's not about that. It's about you traveling to another part of the world where you've paid money, spent your time and effort to get the right visas, and they're following the law, and then they're being treated with suspicion and the possibility of being denied at the border or at the airport. And you can say, well, if you've got money, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but it's not about that. It's about something being right and showing that, giving yourself and your country and immigration of your country a good reputation. That's why countries like Malaysia, China, Japan, Australia, a lot of the Commonwealth countries, they're doing good. They're doing well because their system works. It might not be perfect. There's obviously corruption in every country, even in immigration, but the system within those countries works a lot better than Thailand. You could say, well, if you don't like it, go to those countries. But I don't want to. I want to stay here. Well, then you could say, well, you should tolerate it then. No, because it's not about tolerating things that aren't working. Ultimately, it's about a fair system that works for everybody. It's not about selective judgment, selective accusations. You can't just question one person because that person happens to look suspicious, or profiling people because of the way they dress, or because of the way they look that particular moment, or because you happen to feel that they've got an attitude or something, or whatever it is, because you don't understand that, because you don't understand who they are, their language and whatever. It doesn't fucking work. It doesn't work. And we're seeing that now in Thailand. We're seeing that all of these backwards measures and unnecessary authoritarian bullshit, rules and regulations, they're having a massive impact on immigration. You're certainly seeing it amongst the older foreigners here. That a lot of them are packing up and leaving. So, well, that's up to them, isn't it? Yeah, it is up to them. You're right, it is. And it's up to them to spend their hard-earned money that they worked decades for, to be able to spend it in a country where they aren't treated like criminals. What's the point in retiring somewhere where it's more stressful than it is fun? The whole idea of going to another country is for them. Generally, people should be welcoming you here. If you've provided the right documents, you've got all of the things that you do everything the right way, which I have done many times, and yet I've still had problems. I'm just saying that the system needs to change, is what I'm saying. It needs to change. And if it doesn't change, then you'll see this trend that's happening now continue. And before you know it, there'll be a 50% drop, and then an 80% drop in tourism here. And before you know it, Thailand there won't be as many foreigners here anymore. And so a lot of the investment and one of the second biggest form of income in this country is tourism. That will more or less disappear. And so other industries will have to make up for that, or tourism will have to suddenly just turn the light on in its head and say, look, we've got to reverse some of this shit, otherwise we're going to lose a shitload of money. Thailand's got a choice. Thai immigration's got a choice. They have if they want to be stubborn and childish and dictatorial, fine, go ahead. But you're the ones that are going to suffer from it in the end, in the long term. Because it doesn't matter if tourists, retirees, people that work, even people that have got retirement visas, education visas, people that are working here, it's still all bullshit. It's all loops and red tape and bureaucracy and expense for the sake of it, just for the sake of it. Not for it's not, all of that shit is stressful. It's like it's one thing to have stress as a someone that's wanting to work here, or some in the process of getting into that position. But after, once you've fucking got that visa and you've got all the regulations and you're doing everything correct, there shouldn't be any problems. There should not be any problems. Or very, very little, if there is any. Certainly for people that are retired. People that are in the 60s, 70s, even 80s. They don't want to go through all that crap. They'd rather fuck off to Malaysia or go to Australia or go to Canada or go somewhere else where they fucking feel more respected and can actually relax and enjoy their retirement, enjoy the money that they've spent so many years and of hard dedication and effort and work to get towards. They don't want to be jumping through all this crap. And it's the same for tourists. So it shouldn't, this whole 3-month situation, it might work financially for those that are, benefiting from it. But in the short term, but in the long term, it won't work. It will not work. And this whole reporting of the address thing, it's not going to work out. And that's why you see time after time after time after time after time again that Thailand immigration reverses these rules because they don't fucking work. They don't work. They might work for a couple of years, but then they start to say, oh, look, our profits are going down. We're losing out on money here. We're losing out on people. Pushing money into the local economy, whether it's in the city of Chiang Mai, whether it's in Pattaya, even if it is for sex tourism, even if it is in call centres or working in schools, whatever it is, you're spending money into that country, spending money into the economy. And for some people, I think some people retirees have to pay tax, and God knows how much money they have to spend on, extending their visas and all the things that come in with that. And you could say, well, that's the price you pay for these things. Well, maybe, but there's other countries that you can do these things for a lot less stress, a lot less money, a lot less time, and you can still, your time is spent enjoying the country more than it is stressing out and worrying about it. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. That's why you go abroad. You go abroad to try and get away from stresses and worries. Of course, there is a part of stress that's part and parcel of travelling, going through the airports, travelling, 10, 11, 12 hours on the plane, all of that. And of course, part of it's the visas and all and dealing with immigration. But there becomes a point where it's deliberately being made difficult. Not because it's benefiting tourists or because it's trying to cut down on things like all these extra outlaw and all this crap that's supposed to be, these incentives to try and stop foreigners abusing the system. Because most of the people that are abusing the system in this country are the officials, the people at the top. We only have to look at people like Big Joke. His name speaks for itself because that's exactly what he fucking is. I hope that guy rots away. I hope whatever I think he's got done for, I don't know if it's fraud or something like that, or defamatory, I don't know, something. He apparently got into trouble, and of course there's so much stuff going on within the different ranks of immigration, especially at the top. There's so much corruption that's going on there. It outweighs anything that's going on. From tourists, and even with the corruption that's going on from the tourist side, it's still breeding money. It's still bringing money into the country, and that's why there'll never be an end to corruption here. And the immigration don't want an end to the corruption. They don't want an end to their side of the corruption. They don't want the to completely get rid of all the loopholes from the opposite side. They don't want it. They want some of that, but they have to be seen to be making progress. They have to be seen to keep them in power, to keep them in the positions. So it's all a facade. It's all a facade. It's all a joke. It's all smoke and mirrors in that regard over here. Thailand's a fantastic country, believe me. It's a beautiful country. Amazing people, believe me, amazing people. Great food, great culture, Buddhism, everything like that is incredible. But when it comes to immigration, it sometimes makes you wonder, is it worth it? And that's why you're seeing a reduction, I think, partly, is that a lot of people are asking themselves that question. Is it worth it anymore? For a lot of people that have been here for 20, 30 years or maybe longer, a lot of them are thinking the same thing, and their answer is no, it's not worth it. I could be spending my hard-earned cash in a nearby country and just pop into Thailand every now and again. Because it's not worth living here. In fact, I could get the same quality of life or better in a nearby country. In fact, spending less money. Or maybe just spending a little bit more. So Thailand's not doing itself any favours. So the visa situation, there needs to be more visas, there needs to be more options. In some ways there needs to be less requirements. In other ways there needs to be some ways a little bit stricter. But Thai law needs to be Thai law. It needs to be the law. And if it's not the law, then throw the fucking thing out. There's no point in it being there, in written or typed on a fucking website or on paper if it's not going to be followed. You might as well throw it in the bin, burn it. If everybody went around in life, just doing things however they felt on that particular moment, it'd be chaos, it'd be anarchy. And if Thailand wants to represent itself in a positive way and keep its reputation like it used to have, then it needs to get with the 21st century, but it also needs to try and relax a little bit and stop being so suspicious and being so xenophobic to foreigners from the West. And certainly racist to for foreigners from India and Africa, because we know that that's real. But also this whole thing of this interconnectedness, and we're going to get one up on you, all this kind of thing, and the little man syndrome that goes on a lot in immigration. It's pathetic. It's fucking pathetic. The bribing, all that sort of stuff. As far as I'm concerned, at the end of the day, the corruption, in my opinion, the corruption from the foreigner side, it's justified. Because if you look at how much of it is on the other side, it's nothing. It's nowhere near that side of that level of deceit and lies and fraud. So fuck them. That's all I've got to say. Fuck them. And if they want to continue with this trend, okay, fine. Watch your economy collapse.